Next week on January 29th, console players will get access to two more DLCs, the Australia Pack and the South America Pack. We are nearing the end of the road with these console bundle reviews, as this next bundle will mark 14 DLCs available for console players, leaving only the Oceania and Eurasia packs remaining. In this video, we'll be going over everything in the South America and Australia packs, the animals, the pieces, and my overall thoughts on both packs. Maybe I can convince you to get them, maybe I'll convince you not to get them. It's all up to you at the end of the day. I'm just here to give you the information on both of the packs, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Now we will be doing something a bit different with the layout of this review compared to the other bundle reviews we've done. We'll be looking at both of the packs together, not one after the other. And then my main reason for that is because these two packs I have very similar opinions on, so I don't want to repeat myself when I could just combine my thoughts on both of them together. And don't worry, we'll be going over all the animals and the pieces anyway, just like we did last time, but we'll be talking about the packs in a more combined, shared light. So anyway, let's get on to it with the South America pack, starting with the animals. In South America pack, you get 5 animals for Habitat 1 exhibit, and both of these packs are scenery packs, so that applies to both of them. You get 4 Habitat animals, 1 exhibit animal, and a bunch of scenery pieces, along with a campaign scenario. 4 Habitat animals included in the South America pack are the jaguar, the capuchin monkey, giant anteater, and the llama. The exhibit animal is the red-eyed tree frog. So for my thoughts on this pack's animals, well, to start off, if you haven't heard me say it by now, South America is severely underrepresented in the game. It is probably the most biodiverse continent in the world, yet it has close to not if the least species in the game for its continent. So because of this, therefore, any of the animals in this pack are pretty important. The pack includes almost all iconic zoo species that you would find in a regular zoo, the jaguar being a very famous species of feline, the llama is a classic petting zoo animal, the anteater also being a well-recognized animal. It's maybe not the most recognized, but it's still a really, it seems like a general animal. And the capuchin is very special because it is the only South American monkey we have in the entire game, not just in this pack. I don't personally use the exhibit animals often for the tree frog, but it does seem like a pretty iconic species among the exhibit animal rosters, so it definitely would probably be useful. This roster, there really isn't too much to dissect here. The capuchin seems essential as it's our only South American primate. The jaguar is, in my eyes, also essential because of its popularity and its just well-known status, and the other 3 are pretty common as ones to use as well. I personally don't have any major critiques with this roster. Sure, there are other, maybe more colorful animals they could have used, like a bird, but they got the most iconic ones here right out of the way, with aside from ones like the capybara, which were filled out later on in other packs. Can that pack's roster be greater? Sure. It could have been an animal pack. Also sure. But for what we're given for the 5 animals, I don't have a problem with them because they chose really iconic species, so it makes sense for what it makes sense and what fits the title of a South America pack. What are my thoughts on the animals for building wise? I would definitely recommend this pack to anyone who wants to build diverse zoos with a decent South American section. Normally I would say if you want to build a South American zoo, but even then, if you collect every South American animal in the game, that's still not a wide variety to do a zoo on. So even with that, we have enough to make a section for South America in a regular zoo. So if you want to do that for any of your zoos and have good South American sections, I definitely recommend this pack. You can also get other South American animals from other packs, but they're more spread out. For example, in the Grasslands pack, you get the maned wolf and the armadillo, and in the Tropical pack, you get the sloth. So they're kind of spread out through other DLCs, but obviously this one is the only one where you have a consistent roster of only South American animals. So now we're actually going to switch over to the Australia pack animals. For the Australia pack, again, scenery packs, you get 5 animals. We have the koala, the red kangaroo, the dingo, the southern cassowary, and for the exhibit, the eastern blue-tongued skink. Once again, similar to the South America pack, the animals in this pack are very iconic, which makes sense, seeing as both of these packs were already released in the first year of DLCs. The koala and kangaroo are essential for any Australia section or just in general because they are the names that they are. They are very iconic animals in the animal kingdom. And the dingo, while not a super common zoo species, is still a popular name in general. The cassowary is probably the least known out of this bunch, but to make up for it, the cassowary is probably the best looking animal out of the bunch in terms of quality. But going over overall thoughts on this one, again, pretty similar thoughts for the Australia pack animals as the South America pack animals. If you want to make a Australia pack or the Australian zoo or a really good Australian section, get this pack. I highly recommend it. Maybe not for the dingo, but if you want to build for the koala and the kangaroo, which are 2 really essential animals in any zoo, then definitely get the pack. But for the dingo and cassowary are also really good. They're just not as common in zoos as the other 2, which are very clearly the icons of this pack. So the reason I want to show all the animals from both packs is because I share the same opinion on them. Like I said, both of the packs came out in 2020, the first year of DLC support, and because of this, most of these animals don't look as good as most of the recent ones. However, because these ones were added first to the game, they are also way more common and well-known animals. The jaguar, llama, koala, kangaroo being the main ones, all of them are pretty household names. Also, as we'll see later on, after reviewing the scenery of both packs, I think in my opinion that the animals for both of these packs are the main point of buying them. The scenery for both of them is okay, but I think the main thing you take away from either of these, or the main selling factor, is the animals. And with that being said, let's look at the scenery. So we're going to start with the South American scenery. So this pack obviously is inspired by South American architecture, but more specifically, the construction pieces at least tend to have the style of old ruins or like temples. But then you also have a different type of like theming with like the bamboo theme with the wall set and ropes. There's a large variety of pieces in this pack, and it obviously depends on what you want to build to decide if the pieces are useful to you or not. For me personally, I don't use a lot of the pieces in this pack, truthfully. If I had to point out the ones I use most, the very few ones I use most would be like the rubble pieces, the rope coils sometimes, and that's really it. The bamboo wall set for me is too cartoony and doesn't look that realistic, and the stone wall set is good. It's okay. I just can never find a way to properly use it in my builds in a way that looks good or natural. The pack also comes with a wooden beam set in which it's decent. However, for me, I use other beams from different packs, like the Twilight pack. The one that is in the Twilight pack is amazing, and it has a more realistic texture. But the one in South American pack is not necessarily bad, and it does have flexi-color options. My thoughts on the construction pieces also pretty much apply to the foliage. The pieces are good, but they're not really that usable. I like the mossy wall climbers and the fallen mossy tree. They're pieces I used to use a lot in my earlier years of building because I thought they looked cool and like really flashed and they like stand out. But now that I've gone to more realistic building and like learned more realistic styles and like techniques, they kind of like stand out in a negative way because they're very much have this like cartoony texture that doesn't really align with everything else, which makes them come off as like kind of weird and takes away from the realism. So I just prefer not to use them. The trees in the pack are decent. Again, they're probably really useful for South American builds or sections. I personally don't really use them that much, but again, it depends on what you are building for, or what your intentions are. So now with that, moving on to the Australia pack scenery, which I also feel the very same way about the South American scenery. The Australian pack is a very wide array of pieces. You have a lot more variety in this pack when compared to when seeing as like some of the shapes and like kinds of pieces, compared to like the more brick like wall sets and the roof pieces of the South American pack. There's like shade structures. There is paintings like the rocks, like the paintings. Again, the scenery on its own in this pack is very impressive. I like that they took the time to do like the cool like art styles in the tiles and the like rock paintings, but they're personally not really useful for me in a realistic setting. While the pieces do represent Australia very well, I have to admit I don't really use a lot of the pieces either, unfortunately. If you're looking to build strictly an Australian zoo, then it's probably a perfect pack. This is a perfect pack for you. It's the perfect set. It's perfect everything because it looks really cool and it visually looks nice to me. But for building a realistic city zoo like myself, I wouldn't really recommend getting the pack because it doesn't have a lot of pieces that are too useful in that kind of setting. And then for the foliage of the Australia pack, again, it's okay. Again, they choose foliage that's native to Australia, which makes sense, but in a city zoo, it doesn't really look too good and it can't really blend in. But anyway, let's go into the conclusion. Overall, what do I think of both packs? Well, let's look at the positives for starters. Both packs have some very strong animal names: jaguar, koala, kangaroo, all very useful. South America pack does have a few decent pieces that could help with building in a realistic setting, like the ropes and the beams, for example. But for the negatives, both packs have very themed piece sets, resulting in them not having much use outside of that specific theme or style. But would I still recommend the packs? Maybe. It all depends on how much you want these famous animals in your zoos. Because like I said earlier, I think the main selling point for these points is their animals. Because the scenery is, I wouldn't recommend getting the packs just for the scenery, because the scenery probably isn't useful unless you're going towards that specific style of architecture. I would mostly focus your attention on the animals, because that is probably what you're going to be using the most, or you'll get the most enjoyment out of. So if you're looking for like one or two of these specific animals, then go for it. And with that, I think our review is done. Let me know if you're going to be getting either of these packs when they release on the 29th of January. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button and leave a like, as it helps out the channel a lot. And yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.